I no longer drink booze. I no longer take drugs. I work out every day. But I had to. I had no choice because the doctors were telling me I was slowly, well, not slowly, killing myself.
Some breaking news to bring you this evening. Black Sabbath frontman of Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76.
The world went dark when the voice that once defined darkness itself finally fell silent. Ozzy Osbourne, Prince of Darkness, the godfather of heavy metal, the man whose voice could haunt stadiums, died at the age of 76.
A statement from his family said it is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time.
This wasn't just the death of a rock star. It was the closing chapter of a man who redefined what it meant to rise from nothing, fall hard, and still become immortal.
Even Flavor in the building with the great Ozzy Osbourne. And not only that, but I just want to feel proud to say I'm in a movie with this man.
From the haunted streets of Birmingham to the biggest stages on Earth, Ozzy was never just about music. He was about pain, chaos, survival, and truth. There will never be another like him, and there doesn't need to be. Ozzy was one of one. And if you're here because his voice soundtracked your youth, his rebellion gave you courage, or his brokenness made you feel whole, then you're not alone. Before we dive into the full story, the heartaches, the madness, the legacy make, sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because this isn't just about remembering a legend, it's about carrying him forward. This is where we honor the man who screamed through the pain so we didn't have to. Ozzy didn't just make music, he made a movement. Born John Michael Osbourne in Aston, Birmingham, Ozzy grew up in a home with 6 kids, no money, and no options. His father worked night shifts, and his mother worked days. Dyslexia, bullying, and poverty shaped him long before the music did. As a teen, he was arrested for theft and spent time in prison. But there was something inside him that wouldn't shut up something loud, strange, and desperate to be heard. That something found its release when Ozzy met guitarist Tony Iommi, bassist Geezer Butler, and drummer Bill Ward. Together, they formed Black Sabbath in 1968, and by 1970, they had dropped an album that sounded like nothing else in existence. With tracks like Black Sabbath, Nib, and later Paranoid, they invented heavy metal dark, raw, and unapologetically honest. Ozzy's voice wasn't pretty. It was powerful, eerie, unforgettable. He didn't try to be perfect, was real, and people felt that. Sabbath didn't care about trends. They spoke to something deeper: war, madness, the fear behind the curtain. And with each guttural wail, Ozzy gave a generation permission to scream. But with fame came pressure, and with pressure came destruction. The drugs were starting to win. By 1979, after a decade of success and self-destruction, Black Sabbath did the unthinkable. They fired Ozzy. He was lost, numbing his grief with drugs, alcohol, and silence. He isolated himself in a hotel room, certain his life was over. But fate wasn't done with him. Sharon Arden, daughter of his former manager, stepped in. She didn't just see potential, she saw survival. She became his manager, his protector, and eventually his wife. And together, they rebuilt him. In 1980, Ozzy launched his solo career with the release of Blizzard of Oz, which included Crazy Train, one of the most iconic songs in rock history. That riff, that howl, it wasn't just a comeback, it was a resurrection. He teamed up with young guitar genius Randy Rhoads, and together they made magic. Mr. Crowley, Suicide Solution, I Don't Know, songs that were theatrical, philosophical, and emotionally raw. Ozzy was proving he wasn't just Black Sabbath's past, was rock's future. Fans came back in droves. He wasn't refined, he was still wild, still broken, but that's what made him powerful. Ozzy's second act wasn't a return, it was a reinvention, and it shook the industry to its core. Then came tragedy. In 1982, Randy Rhoads, Ozzy's closest creative partner, was killed in a horrific plane crash during a tour stop. Ozzy was gutted. He disappeared for days, slipping into a black depression that threatened to swallow him whole. But somehow, he came back again. Not because he was invincible, but because music was the only thing that kept him breathing. He released Diary of a Madman, Bark at the Moon, and The Ultimate Sin. Each one was heavier, more ambitious, more unhinged than the last. Ozzy leaned into his image: bats, blood, chaos. But behind the madness was a man still grieving, still surviving. In 1989, during a drug-fueled blackout, he tried to strangle Sharon. He was arrested, ashamed, and shaken to the core. That moment was the turning point. Rehab followed. Reconciliation followed. And the music? It kept coming. No More Tears in 1991 reminded everyone that Ozzy wasn't just a showman, he was a poet of pain. Songs like Mama, I'm Coming Home revealed a tenderness behind the madness. He wasn't just metal, he was human, flawed, yes, but fearless about his flaws. That's why fans stayed. By the late 90s, Ozzy was more than a musician. He was a myth, and then he did something no one expected. He invited us into his home. In 2002, MTV launched The Osbournes, a reality show following Ozzy, Sharon, and their kids Jack and Kelly. Viewers expecting satanic rituals got something better: chaos, comedy, and a deeply dysfunctional but loving family. Ozzy swearing at the dogs, Ozzy mumbling through breakfast, Ozzy trying to use a remote control like it was a demon artifact. It was brilliant. The show became a cultural phenomenon and made Ozzy a household name to a brand new generation. But it also peeled back the curtain. Behind the Prince of Darkness was a dad, a husband, a man trying to navigate a world he barely understood, and people loved him for it. He wasn't an act. He was authentic, raw, human. And when Sharon battled cancer on screen, fans rallied around them like family. The Osbournes wasn't just entertainment, it was vulnerability in real time. And through it all, Ozzy kept performing, kept recording, kept evolving. He had become a rock legend without ever selling his soul. But even legends have bodies that break. In 2003, Ozzy suffered a near-fatal ATV accident at his estate in England. He stopped breathing. Sharon found him lifeless. Miraculously, he survived, but the damage was lasting. He broke his collarbone, several ribs, and a vertebra in his neck. Recovery was grueling, and yet, again, he returned. Slowly, carefully, determined. But the hits kept coming. In 2019, he suffered a fall that re-injured the spine damaged in the ATV crash. Then came the pneumonia. And finally, in 2020, Ozzy publicly revealed that he had been battling Parkinson's disease. The tremors, the pain, the surgeries, it was all catching up. But he didn't stop. He released Ordinary Man, featuring Elton John. It was reflective, intimate, honest. Songs like Under the Graveyard hit fans like a gut punch. In 2022, he followed it with Patient Number 9, which earned him 2 Grammys. Even in his 70s, even while battling a disease that silences most, Ozzy Osbourne was still screaming, still surviving, still creating. He couldn't jump anymore, but he could still feel. And that's what mattered most. Then came the final chapter of the concert that no one believed would happen. On the 5th of July, 2025, just weeks before his death, Ozzy Osbourne performed one last time in his hometown of Birmingham. Carried on stage in a Gothic throne, his voice cracked, but his spirit soared. He opened with Crazy Train and closed with Paranoid. And in between, a miracle. His original Black Sabbath bandmates Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward joined him for one last set. The stadium trembled. 40,000 fans sang with tears in their eyes. Ozzy looked out over the crowd and said, "Thank you for saving me." That night, they raised nearly $200 million for Parkinson's research and local children's hospitals. It wasn't just a concert, it was a goodbye, a love letter, a statement. The man who had fallen so many times had risen one last time. And the world was there to witness it. He didn't die on a hospital bed. He died on a throne, in front of his people, with his voice echoing through the night. That's how legends go out. When news of his death broke, the world froze. Social media turned black. Tributes poured in. Tony Iommi said, "We started as kids. I lost my brother today." Elton John called him a monster talent with a golden heart. Metallica posted a single word: devastated. Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day said, "We lost a part of music itself." Questlove wrote, "Ozzy was the soundtrack of every rebel's soul." Sharon released a statement that read, "He was my world. He gave everything to his family, his fans, and his art." Jack Black posted a video crying, saying, "He's the reason I ever stepped on stage." Jason Momoa called him immortal. Even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson posted that Ozzy's voice was the sound of his childhood. TikTok trended with teens discovering Sabbath riffs for the first time. Radio stations played Iron Man on loop. Murals went up in London, Los Angeles, Tokyo. Around the world, strangers gathered in parks, garages, and bars blasting his music, telling stories and crying together. Because Ozzy didn't just sing to his fans, he saved them. He gave them something they couldn't get anywhere else: permission to feel broken and still be loud about it. And now we're left with the question, what comes after Ozzy? The answer is simple: we carry him. In every scream at a concert, in every guitar solo that goes just a little too long, in every kid who turns their pain into art, we play the music louder, we tell the stories longer, we honor the madness, because Ozzy Osbourne didn't just live through darkness, he made it his stage. He showed us that pain isn't weakness, it's fuel. That being strange isn't a curse, it's a gift. That survival isn't clean, it's messy and wild and worth it. He wasn't a god, he was a man, and that's what made him legendary. So light a candle, raise a glass, turn up the volume, and scream into the void one more time, Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy! Because the man may be gone, but the madness, the spirit, the echo, that never dies. Rest in power, Prince of Darkness. The world is darker now, but somehow, because of you, it still feels like home.